Hi everyone, I hope you're really well. Boy, oh boy, have I been waiting a long time to be testing this. Well, at least it feels like it anyway, because usually when new foundation arrives, I just want to put it straight on my face. But I have been so patient, I've swatched it, yes, admittedly, but I've been waiting for there to be something other than greyness outside so I could actually film it with some decent lighting so we could actually see how this looks. If you saw my What I Got for Christmas video, I mentioned the fact that I picked this up with some Christmas money in the sales. This is the Becca Perfect Skin Mineral Powder Foundation. I've always wanted to try a mineral powder foundation and I never have. And then I saw that this was half price and Becca seemed like a pretty good brand, so I jumped right on it. Before we get into any other detail, let's quickly have a look on the internet somewhere so that we can find a little bit more out about this foundation and what it's going to be able to do for me. Okay, so I thought I'd start off on the Space NK website because this is where I bought it from and you can see it was half price. You get 9.5 grams of product. It's designed for a silky, sheer and weightless finish to suit all ages and skin types, including those with sensitive or acne-prone skin with adjustable natural looking coverage. This water-resistant mineral marvel is both easy to apply and long-wearing. Buff some on for sensual, luminous colour that stays put all day. Even wear it to bed to mimic smooth, perfect skin around the clock. What are they on about? How strange. So to apply it, you work inward from the perimeter of your face and lightly buff the powder into the skin, making small circular motions, which is what I expected really, and you just build it up as you need to. I thought I'd also show you Sephora's website just so that you can have a look at what shades it comes in. I got mine in the shade Porcelain, which is the lightest, but it does seem to come in a fairly decent shade selection through to some pretty deep shades and quite a decent spread of fair shades as well, although I'm not convinced that having bought the lightest it is actually that light, because I know that there are people definitely paler than me. So it certainly sounds like it's a dream come true in this little package, you know, lightweight, buildable coverage for all skin types, including those people with acne. My expectations are pretty high. I am kind of suspicious as to why it's half price, but hey, let's just reserve judgment for a minute until we see how it goes on, because other than swatching this, that's all I've done. So the shade I picked up in a bit of a panic in the sale because there was no time to do any research at all is Porcelain, which was the lightest. So hopefully this is going to be a good match for me. It certainly does look like quite a dreamy, kind of creamy, buttery powder. So I'm very intrigued. I didn't actually have anything in my current brush collection that I could use to apply this with, because normally in my foundation test videos I do half of my face with the Zoeva 104 and then the other half with the Beauty Blender. But obviously the Zoeva 104 wasn't really designed to apply mineral foundation, so I may have just had to purchase something else. And how beautiful is this brush? It's absolutely gorgeous. This is the Zoeva 102 and I can tell you that it's so soft and dreamy. This is probably quickly becoming my new favourite brush and I've not had it very long, but its original intended purpose is to buff this kind of product, so perfect time to test it. If you are new to my foundation videos, I always obviously freshly wash and moisturise my face. I did go with a slightly heavier moisturiser than usual because I do suffer with very oily skin and I need something to help me with it. I use very, very lightweight moisturisers normally, and I don't use any primers for foundation tests either because I like to see how things perform on their own before we get into any further experimentation. Plus, however this foundation ends up performing, I want it to be more helpful for you guys, and obviously if I start chucking a million different things on my face, then that's not exactly the most helpful thing for you guys to see, I don't think. So I try and keep it very straightforward. So just so you know, I do have very oily skin and I do have the odd dry patch here and there, usually around my chin. For that reason, I have gone for a slightly heavier moisturiser because of it being a powder. I have never used a powder foundation before, so I'm thinking the best way for me to start concealing and stuff, because ain't nothing going to be helping this area right now, is I'm going to do my concealer first before I put foundation on, and I'm just using NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer at the moment. I am experimenting with other concealers, but this is the one that I know best. I'm just going to quickly conceal a couple of areas. And we've obviously got this healing friend over here as well, which is like some kind of beacon of sadness. Just whatever I put on it, it's just doing nothing really. I think that's all I'm going to do in terms of concealing. I won't bother concealing any spots because I want to see how well it does on spots. Are you ready for the first swirl? It's so exciting. Don't really know how much to apply, but I'll still go with doing just one side of my face at a time. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be a quick option for applying makeup in the morning. I used to wear, years and years ago, is it Clinique Super Powder or something like that? And I used to wear that just on its own. It was a really good masking powder. It's certainly going on really nicely. It's evening things out nicely. It's not really knocking my spots out, so I might just see. Just try a different motion just to see if we can hide them a little bit more. The bits of skin that I have which don't have too much going on look really nice. It's definitely evened everything out. Okay, I think that's pretty much half of my face done. Looking in the viewfinder, I think you can definitely see the difference between this side of my face being really nicely evened out. It's not covered things fantastically. I am used to quite a high level of coverage. But I think what I'll do is I'll do this side and then I'll see how things are looking and maybe build it up in a few areas where I need it. Okay, so there it is on both sides of my face. So I think if you didn't really have too much to cover up, then this would probably be a really nice foundation for you because it does go on really quick and just kind of even things out nice and quickly. So it's a nice alternative to a more traditional kind of cream foundation or liquid foundation. It's not really given me the level of coverage that I am used to. So I'm just going to see if I can build it up in a few areas. Okay, so there we have it. I think that's probably about as far as I want to take things. It's a bit difficult with a mineral foundation knowing whether you've used too much, because usually with like a creamy or a liquid foundation you maybe do one pump and then you kind of can equate it to something, whereas constantly dipping into something like this, it's very tricky to tell whether you're using too much or not. It kind of did get to the point where when I was putting it on my face, it does have that kind of luminous quality to it that when it went on, after I'd done what felt like quite a few layers, you could see that sheen on the skin. So I'm hoping I haven't taken things too far, just trying to get the coverage up. On some of my dry areas, like this healing spot here, and I randomly get a bit of dryness down here, it's not looking fantastic. But considering how much I've put on, it could definitely look a lot worse. I've had liquid foundations look a lot worse on dry patches like this. So considering this is a powder, it's not done too bad at all. My chin area is my least favourite area to cover. I have a lot of issues here. Really dry, damaged, just nasty skin. And it's actually not looking too bad in that area either. Usually, if a foundation is going to look dry anywhere, it's going to be here. How does it feel? My skin feels silky smooth. It feels absolutely beautiful. And looking in the viewfinder, it's not looking too bad at all, I don't think. I've only got like a small handheld mirror with me at the moment, and I think I did quite well for a colour match too. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly finish the rest of my makeup and then I'll come back in about 5-10 minutes and we'll see how it's looking. Okay, so there we are, rest of the makeup done, just very simple. I have tried to add a little bit more on a few areas that I felt needed a bit of extra help because I still had a lot of redness down here, and all I did was use my finger and dot it on, and that seemed to work okay, but it is still definitely peeking through. I don't know how well this is translating on camera because I do feel like quite often things look more flattering on the camera than they actually are. There's not much that will be helping this guy at the moment, but all in all, I'm quite liking how it's sitting. I think this will be a really nice foundation to use in the summer if my skin's not looking too bad, and I can literally really quickly dust something on just to even everything out, so that's really exciting. All the rest of my makeup went on okay. I've used some blush, which obviously went on okay because it is a powder at the end of the day, and it does have an odd luminescent quality to it, which I don't think is massively noticeable, but when I'm looking at really close, particularly on this part of my face, I can see it more. So I'm really hoping I'm not going to go outside in a minute and it's just going to be like my whole face is sparkling like a vampire out of Twilight or something. So I will keep my fingers crossed for that, but I have to run out the door now, so I will check in with you guys at the end of the day just to let you know how it's worn, and I'll let you know my final thoughts. So I will see you again in a minute. Hi everyone. Okay, so this is a really weird foundation experience. I've never tried anything like this before, so I don't know if this is the standard for a mineral foundation, but I've been wearing this for about 3 hours and I haven't really been looking in the mirror because I've been really busy, and I've just noticed, and I don't know how well this is going to pick up, you might be able to see I'm unbelievably shiny in this area and also on my forehead, and I kind of feel like all of my pores look absolutely massive. Now, whether a primer would help with this situation, I'm not sure, so further experimentation will be required. One thing I didn't mention in the application video, which I forgot about, is it does actually come with one of these little flat pancakey kind of sponges, which I didn't use because I was worried about it picking up too much product, and I just wanted to try the Zoeva 102 instead because that's kind of what it had been designed for, applying mineral foundation. I mean, I just feel like just using the little compact mirror that you get, I just feel like my nose is unbelievably shiny, and all around here, around my nostrils, is really shiny. It's not like to the point where you'd look at yourself and you'd think it's an oily, greasy mess, because it isn't. It is just shiny, and when you feel it, it does still feel pretty matte. So, like I said, it's a really weird one. I'm just wondering whether the situation can be improved at all by applying a little bit more product. So I think I'm going to try a little bit on this side of my face with the sponge, and then I might try the other side of my face with the Zoeva brush and just see if we can improve things at all. Yeah, that's mattified things back down again. You know, this is no massive deal for me to have to do this, but I just wanted to show you guys because of how shiny it was. I think that did apply okay, but like I said, I think you'd end up picking an absolute ton of product up on this. So I'm just going to swirl the brush and do the other side. I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I just feel like I'm so shiny right now, but it's not from oil. It's just a really weird thing, and probably putting more product on isn't going to help things. It does certainly seem to have helped something. I think that's looking a bit better now. It has started to look a little bit cakey in this area, but again, whether that's probably because I've used a little bit too much. It's not too bad. Like I said, this is my first experience of using a mineral powder foundation, so we need to experiment with these things, and I want to be able to show you guys how I'm sort of managing to experiment with it whilst I'm actually testing it out. And I will now check in with you at the end of the day. Okay, so it's my final check-in of the day. I feel like I've been wandering around trying to find somewhere that wasn't too bright and blinding to film this because it is so sunny today, which has been a really, really nice thing to see instead of all the gloom and doom we've been having. So hopefully the lighting is okay. It is looking pretty true to life. All in all, I've been wearing this foundation for about 8 hours, so that's about the average for me, I think. And it's been an interesting day. This is a strange foundation. I think I did apply way too much. I think you can build it up, but you have to still have quite a light hand. You have to be pretty careful with it. So it's one I definitely want to experiment with it because I do actually really like it. I think it does give pretty okay coverage. I am used to much better coverage from some of my liquid foundations, so if coverage is really important to you, I think you need to find a really good concealer to use along with this as well. You can use it to spot conceal. I just found it quite easy putting my finger straight in the pan and then dotting it on the areas where I needed it. I found that that worked the best. But like you saw in my earlier check-in, I had this weird kind of oily looking situation right in my T-zone, but I wasn't actually oily at all. It was just purely, I think, how the foundation looks after you've been wearing it for a while, because it does say that it has that luminous quality to it, and it was just making my skin look ultra luminous and glowy, which I know some people is a look they really strive for, but for me personally, because I have oily skin, I don't want to completely deaden everything and make it look really flat, but at the same time, I don't want to look too luminous either because it just makes me paranoid, but that's just me. I think colour-wise, I did a really good match considering it was completely in a mad hurry when they had the sale on at Space NK, and I just grabbed the lightest shade and hoped for the best. But I think this has actually been quite a good match for me, so that's worked out really well. All in all, I am actually quite pleased with this. I'm not quite ready to write this one off yet. I do definitely want to further experiment with it, try it with various different primers and different moisturisers as well, because it didn't really accentuate dry patches, which I'm really surprised about considering it's a powder. It did just make everything look very even and quite natural looking. So I think if you had pretty normal skin, even maybe a touch dry or oily, you're going to really like this if you've not got too much going on in terms of what you want to cover. It does give a really nice evening and quick level of coverage. If you do have stuff that you want to get rid of like I do, then you're going to need to have a decent concealer because it's not quite beefy enough to deal with those kind of problems. And like you saw in my application video, I was having to concentrate coverage in certain areas, which I think did lead to a little bit of caking. It wasn't too bad, but it is tricky to tell whether you've used too much or not. So it's one you have to kind of play around with, and I think with any mineral foundation you need to find that kind of balance of the right level of coverage before you take it too far. So I think it's been a pretty good experiment considering it was my first try with a mineral foundation. So I am actually really happy with it and I'm looking forward to experimenting with it further. I think in the summer it will really come into its own when you just want a very quick light dusting of something, and I'll just keep my fingers crossed that my skin's behaving and there's not too much that needs to be covered up, because I do quite like to wear a minimal amount of makeup if my skin will allow me to in the warmer months. The only reservations I have in terms of this foundation is how long it will last considering the price tag. I obviously picked it up half price in the sale, but normally it would retail for around £30. And I do worry about how much you would need to use. Obviously, if you didn't need to use very much because you've not got much going on, then I could see a product like this lasting quite some time. And if you know me at all from my channel, you know that affordability is a really huge thing for me, because I don't want to be spending out tons of money on things. I want my money to stretch as far as possible, whilst having the odd splurge of nice products as and when I feel that it's necessary. So that is it for today's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. It feels like I've not done a foundation test in ages, and like I said, it's because I've been waiting for a nice sunny day, and we've had one today, so that's been fantastic. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, just give me a thumbs up down below. I would really appreciate it. And if you're new here and would like to see further content from me, just hit this subscribe button and that will just notify you of new content as and when I upload it. And I'll also pop a link to my last video just up here so you can go check that one out if you've not seen it already. Anyway, I hope you're all really well and I will see you again soon. Bye!